So good afternoon, everybody. We're ready for a brief press conference. We'll start with 2 statements, following by 3 questions. I'd like to give the floor to the Prime Minister.
Thank you so much and welcome all of you. As you know, on the 8th and the 9th of July, NATO member states will meet in Warsaw. Looking ahead to this summit, NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg and I talked about the challenges facing the alliance today. The challenges have changed over the years. NATO used to be a warm, protective coat in a cold winter, and now we have to be dressed for any type of weather. And NATO is faced with a range of threats, from violent extremism to failing states and cyber warfare. This means NATO is as important as ever. A lot has happened since the summit in Wales in 2014. Words have been turned into action, including the Netherlands. For example, we have made a big contribution to NATO's Very High Readiness Joint Task Force. We also realize that the changing security situation requires us to systematically increase the deployability and readiness of our armed forces. We are working on this and also setting money aside. The need for these efforts remains, especially given the current threats to the east and south. Russia, for instance, will be an important item on the agenda in Warsaw. It's understandable that our eastern allies are concerned and seek NATO support. But we have to carry on talking to Russia. So I also welcome the recent meeting of the NATO-Russia Council and the possibility that it may convene again before the Warsaw Summit. To the south, NATO is helping to tackle the migrant crisis. Our experiences of these operations in the Aegean Sea have been very positive. I welcome further cooperation between NATO and the EU, and there are other areas in which we can work together, like hybrid threats, better information sharing, and more combined exercises. Hopefully, we can take steps also in this direction in Warsaw. So, Mr. Secretary General, dear Jens, thank you again for visiting, and please, I give you the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prime Minister Mark Rutte. It's great to be back here in The Hague and to meet with you and to discuss how we prepare for the NATO summit in Warsaw in July. And the Netherlands is really a committed NATO ally. You contribute in so many different ways to our collective defense here in Europe, but also to projecting stability to our neighborhood, because if our neighborhood is stable, we are more secure. And I thank you for your many contributions to so many different parts of the efforts of the NATO alliance. We discussed the preparations for the NATO summit in Warsaw in July. And that will be a landmark summit because NATO has to respond to a more challenging security environment, both with a more assertive Russia in the east, but also with all the turmoil, instability in the south. And I welcome the strong determination in the alliance to adapt our collective defense and defense and deterrence posture to a more demanding security environment in Europe. We are going to increase our forward presence in the eastern part of the alliance. We have agreed that the forward presence will be a multinational presence. And I also welcome that we have been able to increase our readiness of our forces. We have established a new High Readiness Joint Task Force. And as you said, the Netherlands is really contributing to this enhanced readiness of our NATO forces. We are also addressing the challenges we see to the south. And we have to further develop the way we are projecting stability to our neighborhood when we meet at the summit in Warsaw. This is about enabling local forces to fight terrorism themselves, to stabilize their own countries, and we can help them, train them, build local capacity, so they are able to stabilize their own countries. I think it is also important that NATO has been able to be part of the international efforts to cut the lines of illegal migration through or over the Aegean Sea. And again, the Netherlands is contributing. You have a ship in the Aegean, and we have seen a significant reduction in the numbers of crossings, partly because of the NATO presence, but of course also caused by the agreement between the European Union and Turkey. So I welcome this broad international effort to cope with the migrant and refugee crisis, and the Netherlands being part of that. We are also stepping up our cooperation with the European Union, and we have seen that we have been able to make progress over the last months. We have reached an agreement on an arrangement on cyber with the European Union, and we also were able to agree on how to share information, NATO and the European Union, connected to our activities in the Aegean Sea. And this has created a new momentum, and I look forward to the summit because the aim is to be able to lift the EU-NATO cooperation to a new level at the summit. A precondition for us being able to respond to a more demanding security environment, both with enhanced collective defense and increased capabilities to project stability to our neighborhood, is that we have to invest more in our defense. And I commend you for your efforts increasing the Dutch defense spending. This is important because it's part of a broader NATO effort to make good on the pledge we made 2 years ago in Wales. And now it is important that we deliver, and I welcome your efforts, and we all know that this is the first step towards an increased investments in our defense, in our collective defense and our shared security. And I'm looking forward to work together with you on these and other issues as we approach the Warsaw Summit. Thank you.
Thank you. First question for Niels Richter, Telegraaf.
Mr. Stoltenberg, you mentioned it, that other landmark summit in Wales, where the member states pledged to bring back their defense budgets towards the 2% NATO norm. So, in that respect, if you look at the defense spendings in the Netherlands, the budget is stuck at 1.13%. Do you think that the Netherlands is doing enough?
It is important to remember what we decided in Wales at our summit in 2014. We decided to do actually 3 things. The first step was to stop the cuts. The second step was to have a real increase in defense spending, and the third step was to aim at 2% within a decade. So no one expects all NATO allies to reach 2% this year or next year. What we expect is that NATO allies are able to stop the cuts and then gradually increase defense spending in real terms and then aim at 2%. And the Netherlands has been able to stop the cuts. The Netherlands have been able to start with a real increase in defense spending. And then we all know that we have a long way to go to reach the 2%. And I expect that the Netherlands will continue to increase and also increase as percentage of GDP. But I think that when we now are in 2016, which is the second year after we made the pledge, to see that the Netherlands, but also several other NATO allies, have been able to stop the cuts and then start the increase is at least a good beginning, but then I expect even more in the years to come.
Second question, Michiel Breedveld, NOS.
Yeah, Mr. Jens Stoltenberg, and maybe Mr. Mark Rutte, you can comment as well. As you know, next year we have elections in Holland. Still, lots of parties hesitate to invest on a bigger scale in our defense. What do you think of that? And for you, Mark Rutte, this government increased spending on defense. Do you think future governments should continue?
So first of all, I understand that it's hard in a way to increase defense spending because all politicians and most people I meet, they would prefer to spend money on health, on education, on infrastructure and many other areas. But we need to invest in our defense because defense is a precondition for the safety, the security, and it is the only way to secure peace. We need strong defense, not because we want to fight the war, but we need strong defense because we want to prevent the war. So we are investing in our defense not to provoke a conflict, but to prevent the conflict. Then I would also like to underline that what we have seen is that after the end of the Cold War, there was a decline in defense spending over a long period of time, over many years. And I have to admit that when I was Minister of Finance in Norway, I was actually responsible for cutting defense spending, and that was in the 1990s. But then tensions went down, and I think it's possible to decrease defense spending when tensions are going down, as long as you're able to increase defense spending when tensions are going up. And tensions are going up. We are living in a more dangerous world. We see a more assertive Russia to the east, and we see all the turmoil and the violence to the south. So then as Prime Minister, I also started to increase defense spending. So the thing is that it's okay to reduce when tensions are going down, as long as you're able to increase defense spending when tensions are going up, and that's what I expect NATO allies to do.
Yes, and I completely agree. Since 2015, spending on defense has been increased again. I do believe that over the next years we need to find room to go further. I, of course, cannot go into the details of the budget for 2017. That's still being debated in Cabinet. But as you know, and we also pledged this in Parliament, that we want to take a multi-year approach which over the years will increase defense spending further, based on the motie of Kees van der Staaij, of a Member of Parliament. Then, secondly, it is not just a question of money. I do believe that this is a dual-track approach. One, more money, yes, absolutely. But secondly, also making sure that the money is spent as efficiently as we can. And in that sense, smart cooperation is key. Also here, the Wales Summit was crucial. And then we discussed, of course, pooling resources, how we can modernize our defense capabilities and therefore be better equipped also in the light of today's but also tomorrow's threats.
Final question, Jaap Janssen, BNR.
Mr. Stoltenberg, the RAND Corporation and former Secretary General De Hoop Scheffer tell us it's not easy to defend NATO territory at the moment when Russia tries to intervene. Within 60 hours, the Russians can be in the cities of Poland and the 3 Baltic states. First question, do you agree? Second question, is NATO ready to station permanently heavy weaponry in those countries?
NATO is able and ready to defend all allies against any threats, and that's also the reason why we are now adapting our military posture. We have already implemented the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense since the end of the Cold War as a response to a more assertive Russia and the turmoil we see in the south with ISIL, Iraq, Syria, North Africa. And I think it is important to remember that what we have done now is a series of different decisions, and we have implemented those decisions. One thing is to increase the readiness of our forces. We have tripled the size of the NATO response force. Then, as part of that, we have established a new, very high readiness joint task force. Netherlands is part of that. We have established 8 small headquarters in the Eastern Allied countries. They are important for planning. They are important for creating the a good relationship between national forces and multinational NATO forces, and they will also play a key role when it comes to reinforcements if needed. Then we will decide to increase our presence in the eastern part of the alliance. Our military planners have put forward a proposal with several battalions in different eastern allied countries, and I expect the summit to make decisions on exactly how we're going to follow up that recommendation.
Would the Netherlands be prepared to contribute to that force, actually?
Well, we are currently discussing how we can best contribute to all the new initiatives, so I have no announcements to make now, but we will, over the coming weeks, take decisions on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Very good.